Councillor Russell approved the construction of elevation plays and several other projects that require additional staffing. And now he suggests that the resulting increase in staff and wages is irresponsible. I am proud of the work that this council has done in tackling some very difficult issues and in building a community. I will stand on my record and on the record of success that this council has shown, and ask that you show your support for good decision-making in the town of Canmore by voting for me to be your mayor for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good. Wes, whenever you want.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for taking time out of your day to be part of the democratic process. I realize a lot of you could be watching TV or we could be playing hockey, but we're here to try and make a decision. And if you notice when you sat down, I left some brochures there. There's a reason for that. I'd like you to score me because ultimately you're voting. And the other thing is, there's a resume. We're out there, we're all running for a job. We're running because we believe we can make a difference here in Canmore. So you guys have to judge and you have to decide. So at the end of the night, judge and mark accordingly. Now, the reason I'm running, one of the first things I saw, because I used to run the U-Haul business here in town, was a continuous exodus of people from here. 15 families a month were going out, 2-3 families coming in. And the reason, it's just unaffordable. So we got to work on affordable housing. We got to work on other issues like parking. And I think what we have to do is get together as a team. So what I'm asking for is your vote. You've got to decide. You're going to go with John's team or Ed's team. But I want to be on that team. I want a seat on council. I believe I need a voice there to be heard. And I have a vision for Canmore. A vision that says we are inclusive. The lower, middle income families, seniors, and people with disabilities. So thank you and score well.
Thank you, Wes. Esme, when you're ready.
This looks sketchy. Is it on?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. So, yes. So I've lived in Canmore, lived in the Bow Valley since 1980. We came here to do Alberta's 75th birthday project, mountain climbing and leading summit registers on 75 peaks, involved 375 volunteers. And we got here, we completed the project, we submitted a photo record to the Alberta Archives, and our adventure in the mountains began. My husband and I ran a Main Street business for 19 years. Our 2 boys were born and raised here in our great public school system. We then served on all of the requisite parent volunteer organizations. We founded the Duck Race with Gord Brown, the late Gord Brown. We used that to fund, to raise funds for minor hockey, Little League Baseball, the wrestling team at the high school, and the football team at the high school, and that's one of my legacies. My husband and I, continues to this day. And I sat on boards for many things, daycare, preschool, school councils, Little League Baseball, high school football, etc. My town committees are Environmental Advocacy Resource Committee, Public Art Policy Review, CAO Performance Review, Bow Valley Regional Housing, I think that might be my favorite, and the Budget Committee, which all members of council sit on. I love this work, I want to continue. I just retired at the end of June, so I can do it full-time, even more full-time.
10 seconds, Esme. Okay,
and vote for me on October 16th. I vow to work for you.
Good, thank you. When you're ready.
Hello, I'm Kim Chismazia, but you can call me Kim C if that's easier. I'm running for council because I have 2 young children and they remind me of my responsibility to be involved and take action. I do this for them, for their friends, and for all of us, for the future. Here's what I will bring to council. I feel there's been a lack of facilitative leadership. A lack of transparency and accountability has led to individuals and groups getting defensive, all conversations shutting down, and name-calling starting up. This has killed public dialogue. I will bring leadership that encourages sharing and testing of ideas and assumptions. And I will promote the exploration of complex issues that reaches deeper understanding from all parties. My platform has 3 pillars. 1, affordability. If I'm elected to council, I will call for a complete and thorough review of the affordable housing issue, including but not limited to CCHC. 2 is governance. Council must be open to all points of view, err on the side of transparency, and hold itself, as well as administration, accountable. I believe in fiscal responsibility, and I do not believe in mortgaging our future. 3 is environmental stewardship. Canmore is an environmental hotbed. I see opportunity in environmental excellence. I see opportunity in coexisting with wildlife, and I see economic opportunity in expanding our knowledge in science-based sectors through the mountain environment, threatened species, water, and glaciers as some examples.
10 seconds, Kim.
I look forward to expanding the conversation with all of you here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, when you're ready.
Hello, I'm Chris Dimitri, and once again, I'm sorry I was a little late there. I would just like everybody to know that if I am elected, I will be elected to represent you. I will do that to the best of my ability by keeping an open mind. I want to assure everybody that I am not in this camp, and I'm not in that camp. I'm in one camp only, and that's Camp Canmore and Camp Bow Valley. I think for the future, in not just Canmore, but the world, communication is key in politics. I see no reason at all why we can't, with everyone being hooked in online and all that, that we can't have an input, like right from the start of a concept, whether it's budgeting, how we spend or don't spend our money, or planning, like do we need a traffic circle? What about a bike lane? What about photo radar? What about parking? All these things can come from you first. The councilor is just going to narrow it down and try to take it forward to a final destination. I believe council has to be proactive. We have to see what's on the horizon and we have to act first. The housing train wreck is only that because partly what we did was we allowed the train to come barreling down into this valley without laying the tracks first. I think in the future we have to see where are we going, and speaking of that, I don't think you need a crystal ball to see where we're going if we don't control it. You just look to any major city in Canada or Europe. I think we need to be responsible for our boundaries, set a limit, and stay within it. There is no glass half full, half empty thing. It's only how big is the glass, how full is it now, and what do we do when it's full. I say no spilly willies. Let's keep out of the corridors, let's watch our growth, and let's stick to it. I also believe in community. I believe in a sense of belonging. There's nothing better than feeling that you belong somewhere. And I believe in looking after each other. We were all young once and we all needed help. We will all be old and we'll need help again.
10 seconds, Chris.
So when it comes time to vote on October 16th, don't vote for me because you know me. Vote for me because you know that I'll do the best I can to represent you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you ready, Chad?
Hi everyone, thanks again for coming. My name's Chad. I chose to live in Canmore because I fell in love with the Rockies while I was living in Jasper and Lake Louise. Canmore is a great location, close to endless outdoor activities, also close to a major airport, and it's less than a day's drive to my family in Regina, Saskatchewan. I've been involved with the community in various areas, such as Toastmasters, the Bow Valley Mentor Program, volunteering with biathlon, and teaching yoga to seniors in the Adult Day program. I look forward to staying involved with all these programs, whether I'm elected or not. I'm a very diplomatic person, very fair, and I believe that a true leader should put everyone else first. As a small business owner, I'm committed and pleasantly persistent. I understand the hard work and dedication that goes into creating something from nothing. The key role for a councillor to me is to listen. As a councillor, I want to understand the needs of all Canmorians. Should you elect me, I will do my best to be your voice in council and steer this town in the direction that it deserves to go. As far as legacy, after 4 years if I was to serve with council, I'd like to see a lot more affordable homes, a lot more community programs, a striving community, and a town that other communities look to for inspiration and ingenuity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jeff?
Hi, I'm Jeff Hillstead. I was born and raised here in Canmore. I've married my beautiful wife, Megan. We have 2 young kids, both under 3. I helped form the student council at CCHS. I was also vice president and president of my condo board for 4 years before I moved to Grotto. I worked in my family business since I've graduated, and it gives me the flexibility to set my own hours to enjoy all those wonderful things that Canmore has to offer. I'm passionate about politics and about our community. I have been attending council meetings since April, so I understand what's involved. I understand the issues that are facing our town. I care deeply about Canmore and about our community, and I want to be part of the solution. I want us to be a community. I feel like that has been lost in the past now. When I was younger, it was a more tight-knit community. I want us to be that way again. Having a young family and being a homeowner, I understand that fiscal responsibility is very important. So I promise to take an in-depth look at the budget to make sure that our taxes are going to where they need to go and that we're spending properly. Communication is key. That's what everyone's saying. It's true. Without communication, there's breakdown, and if things break down, we're not going to be moving forward. We need to work together on the issues that Canmore faces, and we need to be better counsel us as a community of getting to those proper solutions. We live in one of the most beautiful places in all of the world. We need to keep it that way. We have to develop responsibly and in a responsible manner that respects the environment and just respects our community.
10 seconds, Jeff.
For my legacy, I hope that if elected, I will be elected again, and that it will be transparency and that basically we'll have a community again. On October 16th and in the advanced polls, please vote for me.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Joanna?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Joanna McCallum, and I am working to be your town councillor in the next election, which is right now. I came to Canmore in 2000 via Bow Lake from scenic Hamilton, Ontario, and I've always seen Canmore as the place I wish I'd always grown up. It's a beautiful community. We are very caring people, and we care not only about each other, but about the space that we inhabit. Over the last 4 years, I've worked really hard to address many of the priorities that was brought forward in the 2013 election. For instance, we brought on 60 units of seniors housing on the board of Bow Valley Regional Housing, of which I have been chair of for the last 3 years. And we've negotiated another 60 units that are coming online. Next year we'll start building. And that will be that level of care that we don't have in Canmore, so level 3-4. We've also brought on rental housing, which I know that was a great need after the 2013 floods when people found themselves without homes. And that came online last year, and that is full of families, chock-block, and doing quite well. And we have other challenges in our community that we need to face. For instance, our environment is something that's very close to me. I want to see our wildlife be able to move safely through this valley, and I want to see our wild spaces protected through their designations. So I'm asking that you take a look at my paraphernalia that I have over here. I'd also ask you
10 seconds,
to,
John.
thanks, in terms of my legacy, I find the legacy actually is something about self-pride, and I would like to look at something that's our legacy, which is a true, fluid, caring community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. I thought I'd talk a little bit about who I am because I know some of you here, and it's encouraging that you're still here. So just to explain a little bit about my background. So I was born and raised a little bit in southern Ontario and moved out here. I'm the youngest of 5 and moved out west in '79. Things weren't going so well in southern Ontario then. So I was one of the great waves that came back west. So I went to high school and University of Calgary, did an outdoor pursuits degree there. And I also started connecting with Camp Chief Hector, and I learned a lot there and grew a lot there. Then I worked with youth at risk, and I learned a ton, probably a bit more about myself than what they learned from me. And then I did an experiential education degree back in Ontario, met a wonderful guy who I married and had 2 children with. And along the way I went back to Camp Chief Hector, and I ended up there for almost 18 years, learning and growing there and leading a really complex organization. It looks like a summer camp. It's actually got a lot of moving parts, so I learned a lot about business and capital planning. And for me, a big takeaway is going from the details of the program, what's it like on the ground, and tying that into strategic plans. So being able to connect those things. So large vision, what does it feel like on the ground? Which I think can serve me well, perhaps, as someone on council. So I am now living in town and raising 2 children here. We've been in the Bow Valley for 17 years, 2 years in Canmore. I am now a life and leadership coach, so leading on some graduate work in counseling. And the big job of a coach is listening. So I think that might serve me well in this role as well.
10 seconds, Joe.
Oh, golly. I wanted to say I'm keen about social inclusion, and that is about affordable housing and economic diversity, and that's what's going to serve us going forward. My through line is environmentalism. That's the lens I look through the issues. So
Thanks, Joe.
that's a bit about me. Thanks.
Good.
Hi there, my name is Jeff Laidlaw. I moved to Canmore about 4 years ago, coming from Southern Ontario. I love Canmore, it's wonderful. I did a lot of work with charities in Southern Ontario for about 30 years. I ran my own businesses for about 40, something like that. And I was a community activist and then got involved in council in Southern Ontario, primarily, although I probably shouldn't say it, to try and control development and keep it limited and respect the environment. That's kind of one of the reasons that I'm running for council. A couple of the others are I looked at a number of the issues. I've been studying them for about a year now, and honestly, I think there are probably better ways of doing things, and I think there are better ways of communicating and making sure that the public is involved, and that's really what I want to do. I want accountability, my personal accountability to you guys, and I want the town to be accountable to you guys. You guys run the town, we don't. That's the way it's supposed to be. So that's kind of what I look at. In terms of a legacy, I think the best thing I can really say is it's a personal issue. It's maybe not a council issue, but I would love Canmore to be the world leader in coexistence. I'd love us to see us do the job better. I'd love to see that we don't ever see a grizzly bear have to be euthanized or translocated. I would love to see that the elk are allowed in town every night. I think it's a wonderful thing. It makes me really happy to be here. It's wonderful to go downtown in September and there are the elk on Main Street. I think that's so cool. I love it. And it's one of the reasons I love Canmore. So if you like that stuff and you like what you hear, I hope on October 16th you'll vote for me, Jeff Laidlaw. But if you don't,
10 seconds, Jeff.
that's okay. Vote for me.
Yeah, vote for me. James, you're next.
Thank
Carry
you.
on. Good.
Hi, James Loudon. I've been in Canmore for almost 20 years. I'll be 18 years as a Bow Valley Credit Union member. Proud of that. I'm a former municipal employee, and well, I've grown in this town. I've become who I am. So I owe you a debt, and that's why I keep doing this again and again. You've inspired me. So many of you have inspired me, and hopefully I can inspire you just by trying again and again. Never give up. That would be my legacy to you, and hopefully that would be our motto for our community. Just keep trying. Rise again, as I recall, is a song we sing at the end of the Folk Fest. Yeah. And before I go, I just want to say, I miss R&D hardware.
Okay, thank you very much. Karen, when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Karen Mara. I've lived in the Valley for 47 years, 42 years in Canmore. I graduated high school here. I married my high school sweetheart here, and joined a family that's been here for generations. And in doing that, we've continued having generations here. So now we're on our 6th generation, just 6 weeks ago. So for that reason, that's why I'm running. For me, who will be moving into the senior years, quite a ways down the road. Maybe not. So I represent seniors, I represent myself, I represent my children who are starting their families and are facing the challenges of purchasing their own homes, and then their children also, and the schools and playgrounds and things that they will require. So that's why I'm running. Me too, it was in my notes that I do miss going to Richie's for a can of paint and my lawnmower, and I do miss going to Horby's for the skates and running shoes. But in that, our community keeps changing and new businesses come on, and we've met those new people and everyone that has come into the community, and we include those. And all of the voices need to be listened to, the old, the new, and the future. And that's what I'm known for. I was on the Canmore Minor Hockey Board for 14 years, and I was known as a listener and a problem solver. Maybe not always popular as in going to the issue and figuring out what the problem was and getting right to the hard questions, but worked on solving problems. So I'm a good listener, and that's what I would like to leave as a legacy to the community, is work as a community, past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Russell, when you're ready.
Good evening, and I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity for civil discourse this evening. My name is Ed Russell, and I hope to be the next mayor of Canmore. If you've read any of my campaign literature, it begins with a very serious message that this council has lost the confidence of the citizens of Canmore. I believe that. I've lived it. So, the question that I'm bringing forward is tonight, how do we get it back? What's the right road forward? I think the first step is that we start remembering to listen to everyone. Why not make use of the wealth of knowledge that's out in this community? There are some seriously highly talented people offering to help. Combine that with some of the seriously talented people we have working on our town staff. We've got one heck of a good knowledge base immediately to tackle anything that's coming at our community. Next, we sit down and plan our go forward strategy. What are we doing? How much is it going to cost? Is it the right project? Do we need to know even more to make a better decision? Is this truly what the community wants? Finally, with all of the answers to those questions, we take it back to the public and we tell them what we're doing or what we're not doing on their behalf. The key to this success is open, complete, and transparent communication. Under my leadership with a strong council team, we can regain the confidence that has been lost, and I hope that if there is to be a legacy, it would be to bring peace back to the Valley. On October 16th, vote for me, please.
Thank you, Ed. When you're ready, Vi.
Good evening, everyone. It's so great to see so many familiar faces in the audience. My name is Vi Sanford, and I've been on Canmore Town Council for the past 5.5 years. Prior to that, I was on the school board for 5 years. And the trends that have been occurring in the last 5.5 years started a long time ago. Young families have had a real struggle to stay in the community. And as we watched the exodus, as other members of the candidates have mentioned, we're seeing this community grow in a way that might be challenging to sustain. So I think that the actions that the current council has taken to address that have made me feel very proud of the work that we've done. We have opened 48 units of rental housing up at MacArthur Place. We actually, at our last business council meeting last night, we approved 98 units of rental accommodation at the Coast Hotel, which will be going forward. And we have approved the Palliser development on the, across from Blakiston on the, near the Trans-Canada Highway of 148 units. So the things that we've accomplished in the last 5 years have actually been very satisfying to me because I've known for a very long time what the problems are. And the problems haven't been the problems that I've been experiencing, but on council, I think that my experience and my consideration for our community has brought a lot of balance. And I really like to see issues balanced because I like to look at the dollar sign first and then work backward from there because the dollar sign is not always the whole story, but the dollar sign to me is a very good indication of the validity of a project. And so fiscal accountability is important to me, but bringing balance to an issue and addressing the needs of the community and the concerns of the community. So the legacies that I'd like to see
10 seconds,
in the community would be to further those goals, make this an inclusive, sustainable community. October 16th, vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. When you're ready, Rob. Good.
Hi, thanks for being here tonight. I'm Rob Seeley and I'm running for re-election to Canmore Town Council because I love the community and I want to continue to contribute in a meaningful way. I've lived in Canmore for 27 years, actively volunteering and participating in our community. When I was first elected to council in 2013, families and friends were leaving. We needed to address affordable housing needs, and after a full term on council, we were breaking ground on 2 new housing projects. We also approved last night a 90-room market rental apartment building, and I've learned a lot in the first 4 years on town council, which will enable me to serve the second term effectively if elected. I'm invested in Canmore and informed to make important decisions. I have time and commitment to serve effectively. My legacy, continued success with livability and strong community values. I want to keep families and friends in Canmore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I do have some scripted questions that were submitted by, as I said before, the school board and the Hospital Foundation and the library. I want to open up the microphones just to get the blood flowing again and other sentiments that people would like to express. Remember, we're going to go on the issues and soft on the people. So, please.
Good evening. My name is Eileen Patterson. I'm a former town councillor. My question is to Kim. In your brochure, you believe that perpetual affordable housing and Canmore Housing Corporation is seriously flawed. Could you tell us why you think they are flawed?
Thank you, Eileen. Well, what's up? Hello?
Okay.
Can't spend the whole night talking about it.
How long? 2 minutes, Kim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Overall, I don't think there's a clear understanding of the costs of CCHC, and particularly when we talk about PAH, I'm talking about the home ownership model, not rental. I think I really, really appreciate people have talked about this tonight, the rental coming online. I live right next to MacArthur Place. I'm really excited about that great, big, massive 150 units, 148 units. That's going to be great. Same with Coast Hotel. Those are different things. I also want to just acknowledge that I think there has been people that have been helped by the PH program, but I think it's a very small number. And we've talked a lot about social inclusion tonight, young families. We're dealing with people who can buy, let's look at the large project, people who can buy in a large project, the minimum price for a 3-bedroom unit is going to be $370,000. So the numbers on that is you're going to have to make at least 80, the limit's $126,000. I just don't feel that that's a wide demographic, that we're not addressing a lot of our community when we look at that. And a lot of people feel angry that we're subsidizing that income bracket. That's problematic for a lot of people.
Kim, 15.
I'll leave it there, and I'll try to put some more stuff up on my Facebook page with more clear numbers. Thank you.
Thank you.
As I promised before, if there are people here at the table who hold a view that they would like to express on that issue, I'd like to open that up for just a couple of minutes for any supplementary answers. Geez, I feel like that guy going, anyone? Anyone? Okay, if not, I'll go back to the microphones. Oh, Joanna, go please. Yeah, just hold on a sec.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to that. So, the PAH program is not one that we just made up on our own. This is a program that actually exists in other jurisdictions similar to it. The PAH word itself is a made in Canmore term itself. But the city, the resort municipality of Whistler holds over 1,500 units of perpetually affordable housing, a model very similar to ours. And I feel that we need to give people the opportunity to just not rent in our community, but to invest. Within that program itself, I know $126,000 a year seems like a lot of money in any other community in Canada, but in Canmore, we know that living wage for a couple family with 2 children is just under $100,000. Living wage. So if we have people have the ability to get into that have worked and saved and managed to have stable enough rental housing to be able to allow them to save, and they want to stay here. They're not getting rich off of these properties. They're not subject to the market. It is a market within the market. And I would invite anybody that has any questions about perpetually affordable housing to call Canmore Community Housing Corporation or investigate their website. Their audited financials are all available for people to view, and the program and the staff there are more than willing to help people understand the philosophies behind the program itself. But I have people approach us from other communities across this province and across this country that want to know more about this program and how their communities can actually build this themselves for their middle income and working class families.
Oh, we got it right on the button. Anybody else? I'm going to move along. Okay, sir.
Excuse me, I'm inclined to agree with Kim C. I think the issue is not that the middle income earners, the $100,000 people. I think the biggest problem we face in this town is housing the temporary workers, the interim workers, the seasonal tourist industry, let's be honest, who don't make the kind of money that would allow them to live here. A lot of them are leaving. A lot of employers can't find employees because they're leaving. And these people are working 3 and 4 jobs just to stay here. If we're talking about social housing, which is PAH, and we're using tax dollars for that purpose, that makes it social housing. Then we should be doing it in the most efficient way possible and providing the widest range of options. So that would include options which allow both employees and middle managers to buy. That would mean the most cost-efficient model, frankly, is building low-rise apartment buildings. It's not building houses. The houses are overpriced for the people who need to actually get the accommodation to stay here, and they're working damn hard to stay here.
Thank you. We're going to Rob at the far end. Rob?
Well, I own a business in town, the phone store, the TELUS phone store, and it has been troubled. I've had troubles finding staff. I think we're turning a very important corner on that. For the first time, I'm getting people looking for careers. I'm finding staff, they're replying to my ads and everything else, and I'm having to turn people down. So I think we're breaking ground and doing some very positive things in Canmore. I hope other employers are experiencing that, because it's hard when you can't find people. So because of our initiatives, because we are starting to win that battle, and PH is a very big and important part of that, I think things will start to change here, and we need to keep going in that direction.
Okay, I'm going to move along to the microphones. I had said we would direct the question to the first person and then allow for 3 more supplementary. We've done that, so thanks for the other candidates who waited in. Over to microphone 1.
So my question is for our mayoral candidates. One of the things that differentiates Canmore from other towns in Alberta, like Vulcan and Camrose and Grand Prairie, is they have destination marketing organizations. They are invested in the long-term tourism strategy and in the long-term health of their tourism industry. So I'd like to just ask our mayoral candidates, what is your vision for tourism? Where is our tourism industry in a few years? And how do we stay competitive with all these other destination marketing organizations in small towns across the province?
So you want this to go to our mayoralty candidates? Is that what I hear? So,
yes, please.
Mr. Borman, alphabetical order.
Thank you, Mayor, for that question. And as you know from working in that industry, the town had been working very proactively with the tourism industry to help fund the destination marketing organization. The industry itself fell apart in the sense of not wanting to support the destination marketing fund. The hoteliers couldn't agree on the value of each of them contributing the 3%. The town tried to work with the business registry to collect some funding that would go directly towards marketing. As you say, tourism is our primary economy, generates about $1 million a day to the town of Canmore, which filters out to support all of the other businesses and many of us that live here and don't work directly in that industry. We tried to use the business registry to create a destination marketing fund to help promote the tourism industry here. And we were shut down essentially by the Housing and Lodging Association. We've looked at other options through the Economic Development Reserve to try to fund promotion for that industry. But we have been working very proactively with the town of Banff and the town of Jasper.
10 seconds, John.
With a regional collaborative approach, and we've been advocating to the province for more ways of supporting the tourism industry here in the town of Canmore.
Thanks, John. Mr. Russell?
Thank you. We had, everyone's familiar, we had a meltdown with our destination marketing. Moving on, we need destination marketing. It has to be there. It's difficult. No one wants to pay for it. Everybody wants to, let's make the tourism, let's make it all go. This year has been a tough year because, unfortunately, with the low dollar and with all the free stuff that Mr. Trudeau invited everyone to Banff for, we're overrun with people. But what about next year? What about next year? Are we in trouble? And we may have to do this, but with all of the conflict and all the competition going on to try to deal with it, we need to try to unify and get a proper balanced approach to this. The destination marketing organizations do serve a function. They're the central clearinghouse. They're the place for people to call and get their tourism information. But we need, with all the other stuff that's going on, we need to bring it forward in the right way and sell it appropriately for what the true value of it is.
Thank you, sir. Good. Now, that was 2 responses. So the other responses, we had 4 people expressing their opinion, so I've got room for 2 more. Any takers? Okay, go ahead. Go, Chris.
I think if we are going to do something, I think we have to establish what exactly are we selling. We can't even, can't even quite figure out what corridors we can go into and what trails we have at this moment. Maybe it's time to kind of slow down and find out what we're dealing with here in Canmore before we start selling it. That's all I would say.
Good. Thanks, Chris. So I'm going to turn you to the microphone.
Hi, my name's Jerry Lemon, and I'd like to direct my question, if I could, to Jeff Hillstead and to John Borland.
Okay.
The question I have is that each of you have 1 vote, and so you all, in the end, will have to work together to make things happen. So my question is, how will you work with others on council to reach consensus on major issues and get things done?
Good, thanks, Jerry. I'm going to ask Jeff to go first, and then I'll come back to John. So his birthright is, he doesn't give him the upper hand all the time. That's a joke, John.
Okay, Jeff. So basically, council has to work as a team. We're going to have to deliberate. We're going to have to talk it out. Basically, and if I personally feel strongly for one way, I'm going to try to convince the others to go that way. If I can't convince them, then I can't convince them. But it's deliberation. It's doing your due diligence, getting all the information, taking it, coming to the best decision. So I feel my opinion that I've gathered from the community is the best decision going forward. I'm going to push for that. But still, at the end of the day, we have to be a team. It can't be fighting with each other. We've got to work together. So we're going to work together as best we can. And if I feel strongly about something, I'm going to push it forward. And if I get shut down, I get shut down. So thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. John?
Thank you for that question. I think one of the reasons that this council has seen so much success in so many different initiatives is that we have learned to work well together. And it's certainly the role of the mayor to lead in those discussions. It's not good when motions come forward to council regularly and are defeated. So the mayor sits in a leadership position and tries to prepare motions and reports as they come forward so that they will be successful. And I've worked one-on-one with councillors through the last 5 years in the same way that I work with everybody in my life. I'm open and I listen and I consider what other people are saying and try to absorb that, and it helps to change my own perspective. So it's a very difficult job because the mayor has to manage 6 other viewpoints, and we all come to council with different positions and different expectations. So I would continue in that same fashion, and I hear a number of different perspectives that are being voiced by candidates here. I'm looking forward to working with any of the candidates that are elected in the same way that I have for the last 5 years as the mayor, and to show similar success in building and keeping Canmore a vibrant and a wonderful place to live.
Thanks, John. I've got space here for 2 candidates more. Okay, Jill gave me the first and then Esme, so this is your first time.
Like
so,
this
Jill,
question.
yeah.
When I think about high-functioning teams that I've worked with, and I've had the pleasure of leading a few, we are really cooking when we, I will quote the great Gloria Steinem here, when we work with each other and build relationships, and then we build organizations at the speed of trust. Organizations grow well at the speed of trust. I love that. However, democracies are messy. But it's what we got, and it's the best model, and so listening and working well with others in our sandbox is the best way forward. So, thanks.
She's quoting Winston Churchill, who said democracy, it's the messiest form of government, except for all others. Right? So, well done. Thank you very much, Jerry. Anybody else wants to come for a first time? Are you? Oh, sorry, Esme. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just like school board, right?
It always comes back to my apologies.
I just wanted to say that the beauty of council for me is that it's 7 individuals with 70 different viewpoints who manage somehow to come to a decision. And when the debate is vigorous and when there are arguments put forward, that's when you get good decisions. And I look forward to serving on council again and working with any of the people that get in and living that process and coming to decisions. So I just wanted to, I love the phrase.
I know you do. Good. I saw you first, so you're coming up.
Yes.
You're good to go.
Hi, I'm
Yeah.
Jean Ansley. There's a lot of questions that I was thinking in my head I want to ask. I'm opening a small business. I'm also born and raised from Canmore, and I just struggled for the last 2 months to find an apartment. I finally found somewhere. It's not affordable, but I have to do what I have to do to live in my beautiful hometown. But I think the question that I would really like to ask is directed to our council that is currently running our town. I think success is very much just dependent on what side of the fence you're standing on, and that word gets used a lot by council members that are currently in office. What is one thing that our current council would change personally about how they have handled one of our big issues regarding housing or environmental situations, whatever? Just one thing that you would say that you would change. How could you do it again?
Well, they're all running for office, so
Well, no, our
seven.
seven that were elected in 2013.
Well,
so I don't need all 7, but maybe.
Well, one's not here, that's for sure. So I'm going to go to Mr. Seeley first, and then I'm going to figure out how to get a few others on the record.
Feels like speaking.
Gotcha. Okay, Mr. Seeley.
Thanks for the question, Kim. And rental rates should be coming down. We're adding more product to the market, so that'd be one advantage of that. But I'll go with wildlife corridors. We have to fix the problem of people going into wildlife corridors and get that under control. It's a problem, and Bear 148 just gutted me, and I think that was very avoidable. And by looking after our wildlife corridors, being environmental stewards, we can make a difference. So that's what I would concentrate on.
Okay. Anybody else from the past council? I'm going to go there first, and then I'll open it up. So, Mr. Borman, your hand moved. So, good.
Thanks for that question. And I'll key off of something that Rob was just saying. I think in hindsight, or in looking back at the previous 4 years and where we are today, and understanding where we have to go over the next 4 years and more than that, to be successful in this valley and coexisting with the wildlife. We have focused this last 4 years on the housing issues. I think everybody in the room recognizes that's a serious issue. But if I could go backwards, I would have changed somewhat the leadership the council has shown in regards to coexistence. We have started making more intentional movement towards that now. I've started the round table along with the MLA to address the issues of coexistence in the Bow Valley, to inform the town of Canmore how we can make it work, that keep people out of the corridors and help to encourage the wildlife to stay out of the town site. Much as we love to see the elk in town and all that, that's when they get in trouble. Look at what happened in Banff just last month when 2 bull elk were shot because they were in the town site. So that's going to be one of my priorities moving forward, is to do a better job with managing those possibilities for conflict and change the culture of our town so that we actually understand and support the intent of the corridors.
Thanks, John. I'm going to a couple more comments. Mr. Russell, would you care to speak?
I have a simple one. Being intimately involved with the 990 Wilson Way situation, that was a really bad thing that happened, and it was just a bunch of clerical errors that slipped through and wound up costing us a lot of money to buy our own property back. I would hope that going forward, we got to tighten up. We got to make things. Stuff happens. You know, it's not if it was just a matter of go out and find someone to beat on or hold accountable. But at the end of the day, we got to tighten stuff up like that. That's an expensive mistake that didn't really have to happen.
Okay. Maya, I saw some action that you're in. Do you care to comment?
I think one of the things that I would have changed is the direction of throwing ourselves enormously into tourism, because one of the things that we're selling as our tourism base is the wild, wild west, all the nature around us, asking people to consume the peripheries of our town. I think that we have to be a lot more intentional about the message that we give to the visitors, because the visitor is a really significant aspect of our economy, absolutely. but we just don't want to give that away. I mean, we have to consider that we have to coexist. So going forward, I think we have to be much more intentional about the message, about what our environment is and who it serves and how we manage it. So that's what I would change.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to go to this microphone here on my right, sir, if you would identify yourself.
Yeah, it's Jerry Stevens, 48 years in Canmore.
Yeah.
The young lady just stole my question. But she asked it a great deal better than I could. So I'm doing some quick thinking. I'm going to ask a similar question of the candidates for the council. Basically, my question is, having observed the present council in action over the last 4 years, if you were elected, what would you do differently from that?
No pressure on that one at all. Okay, I'm going to go to our candidates. So, Mark, you haven't been on the microphone much, so here you go.
I speak really quick, so it'll be fast. I believe that if I was to be on council, the thing that I would expect more is the transparency between the administration and council. As far as the people are concerned, we need to know more about what is actually happening in real time, as opposed to waiting until after it's all passed.
Yes.
I'd like to say, I think we need to put a little balance back into the system. The question was asked the other night, do we figure that there's an out of balance between the administration and the growth of the town? And I have to say, yes, I think it is out of balance. I think we have to work to get it back in balance, and I'd like to help solve that problem.
Okay, thank you, James.
Well, personally, I'd like to see council stand up to developers a little bit more. I think they need to be reined in. They've got an awful lot of power, and I'd like to see more power going back to folks who are concerned about the environment.
Thanks for the question. Oh,
no, it's okay, Karen. I'm gonna go to Karen. Yeah.
As some of you know, I've been attending actual council meetings since February, so I've been watching the process and the interaction. Part of the conversation is happening in the seats. One, a lot of them are empty. Two, when they do come, and when some people come and they're passionate about their issue, is I'm hearing that they're not being heard. They may present something forward, but there's either no response or they're not being heard in their representation. So what I would do is make sure that each individual is contacted. I don't know how they have contacted council, via email, phone, however the communication is. But I feel we have to respond to each and every one of you, whether it's just a quick, we'll get right back to you, we'll look into the information and get back to you, but the communication is what I hear is not happening, and that's sitting in the chairs facing council.
Thanks, Karen. I haven't heard you much, so sorry.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. I'd like to focus, if I was elected, I would focus a little bit more on building a strong community. Some ideas, like more community activities, affordable housing, obviously. If you check out my platform, you can see a lot of it. But I also want to say that after being with these candidates and learning at these forums, learning about each other, I can honestly say that I'm actually not that worried whether I get elected or not. I'm pretty confident that we have a lot of great people here. And from what I heard from last night, I think we are heading in a good direction. I was worried in the past 4 years, but I think we're actually going to be okay. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, Jeff.
Sorry, my voice is really bad. The one thing that kind of concerns me when I see the agenda packages, hear the decisions, and see how it's all going, is that a lot of the decisions to me seem to be made without enough information. It just seems like we're not getting everything we need to make the right decisions. I'd love to see the whole model changed. I'd love to see it changed where rather than getting recommendations from staff, we got, here's the report, here are the pros, here are the cons. You guys make the decision, because that's what council's supposed to do. So,
okay, we've heard every candidate and every incumbent has had a chance on some of the questions here. So I'm going to go back to the microphones and I'm going to go to this side over here. So.
Okay, so my question is kind of exactly what some of you just spoke about. It's about the question of trust. Keeping in, like recognizing all the good things that the council has done in the past 4 years. I'm not taking away from that, but it's very, very clear if you read the paper over the last year, read the letter to the editor, look at what's happening in various neighborhoods. People are very, very unhappy. People have lost faith in council. They don't trust council, they don't trust the decisions. And I personally was at council last night and I felt that very involved in one of the situations dealt with last night. And I know that the decisions that were made by council last night were not based on the evidence. They were not, council in my view ignored evidence, so it's kind of exactly what you guys are talking about.
So question please.
My question is to the candidates who are not on council, so the ones that are running for the first time, any three, whoever wants to speak, what would you do, how would you approach decision making and the information that comes to council? What would you like to see so that you can make the best decisions about the issues in town?
Okay, thank you for that, Christy. Jill, you had your hand up first and I'm going to look for other volunteers, don't worry. Okay, Jill.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, there's some interesting energy going on here around all of this, and I think a lot of things. I will go on record. I think that we have outstanding staff working for this town and outstanding processes. So I think some of the issues is getting the word out soon enough when council's moving towards planning, is that we need clear involvement. That's come through very clear in the last few weeks, last month during this election, is that folks are feeling that they're not being heard. So something needs to shift there. Whatever is happening in terms of getting the word out for public engagement, online surveys, open houses, doesn't seem to be hitting the mark. So there needs to be a review of that and more of same and openness to hearing what forum do people want so that they can be heard. I also think that there is a large silent majority in town that don't show up and that we hear really strong advocates on either end of things. And so we want to make sure that we're hearing from everybody, and ultimately council has to make a decision given the larger strategic direction that they're hearing from constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. I'm going to look up. Go, Chris.
Hi. I think that's a good question. What I see is that all situations are, they're different. Some are more localized, like maybe in a neighborhood, such as a sidewalk or a dog park, and others are more town-wide, like housing. So I think they can be handled differently. If it's neighborhood, let the neighborhood sort of figure it out amongst themselves, and that goes to communication. Open it up online. They can just all have sort of a blog going, and I kind of see the town's council and planner as sort of like the end of the funnel. You kind of suck everything out, down, smaller, and then when it comes to council, it's sort of like, okay, we've got 3 options. Which one do we take? And we vote on it, and we just go forward after that.
Good. Anyone else running for office? Kim, you want to go?
Sure. I watched the council meeting last night. It was like 3 in the morning, so I'm gonna be a little fuzzy. But one thing that bothered me with the presentations around the dog park is, and someone's already brought this up, there wasn't a lot of question asking. I live in Three Sisters, not near Hubman, but close enough, and I walk friends' dogs up there, and I gotta be honest, I think it's a dumb place for a dog park. I'm serious. The good place for a dog park is on Three Sisters. Well, I don't actually know what land it is. I think it's Three Sisters land, right across the street from where I am. There's big, wide open space, and people take their dogs there all the time. And I heard last night that when this whole process started with the dog parks, they couldn't talk to Three Sisters or Three Sisters Mountain Village because they weren't getting along with them very well at the time, but we're getting along better now. And that just makes me want to ask questions, that's all. I don't think there's enough questions being asked, and in my personal experience with dealing with things with council, and administration, there's not a lot of questions being asked, and there's a lot of not listening. So, and I'm hearing that from, maybe there is a big silent majority. Well, I can't hear them if they're silent, but I can tell you when I talk to my hardcore environmentalist friends, when I talk to my super conservative fiscal friends, when I talk to all these different people, they're all saying the same thing. They're all aligned and they don't feel like they're being listened to, and there's like a wall, and they're talking to a wall.
10 seconds, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay. One more candidate, and that'll be number 4. Jeff, go.
I think one of the ways you restore trust is simply if you have a plan, like the trails plan that was referred to last night, and it says you're supposed to have a 120-meter buffer, you gotta stick to that. That plan was approved in 2015, and guess what? The buffer on the new dog park, it's not 120 meters. But that's what the plan says. You lose a lot of trust, you lose a lot of faith that way, and it's hard to regain it. So if you make a plan, stick to it, or change the plan. Those are the 2 options. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay. Gonna go back to the microphone here, man. You've been there for quite a while. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'd like to address this question to the 2 mayor candidates.
Okay.
Bearing in mind the problems in the wildlife hatch, power line area, and Quarry Lake this summer, and all of the talk about protecting wildlife, what is the town of Canmore's vision for Quarry Lake over the next 5 years? You are on record. And when were you going to advise the residents of the area of those plans?
Mr. Borman.
So it's important to understand, first of all, that the Quarry Lake was created and is actually managed by the Rocky Mountain Heritage Foundation.
So you are part of the committee?
That's correct. The town is a co-trustee of the land and has 1 representative on the board. And 2 or 3 years ago, the board started discussing possibility of enhancements to Quarry Lake, recognizing that the amount of visitors there and the overuse of, or the really extreme use of the park needed to be addressed. We need more picnic tables and better parking, another toilet facility, those sorts of enhancements. So a survey was conducted, generated by the foundation and managed by the town. And you can see the results online. It was a very comprehensive survey. And the response from the public was very clear. People don't want to see a lot of change to the Quarry Lake Park, but they do want to see better facilities that are around what I just described. The parking is not adequate. More vegetation, better trail network to get from the parking lot to the lake, improve the beach area at one end, add more tables, make it more accessible to more people at the same time. And that's really what the foundation's vision is. The foundation will be moving forward with some concept planning that will be engaging the community, and the foundation will be funding that work. It won't be funded through town tax dollars. The foundation itself will be raising the money that's required to do whatever the vision ends up being.
You done, John? Okay. Okay, Mr. Russell, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to give you a comparison of Quarry Lake to Sukhumi Lake in Calgary. Sukhumi Lake is a provincial park, or is a component of Fish Creek Provincial Park. They have a man-made lake that's operated as a recreational facility, and it entertains quite a pile of people. The upgrades planned for Quarry Lake, it's not so bad. Bathrooms, great idea. Tables, clean it up, modernize it, bring it forward. The problem area is there's a trail planned that is seeming to take on its own life, and it's tragic because when it was originally portrayed, the trail deal was supposed to be, we buy the materials, you guys build the trail and build it to nice standards. It's gotten right out of hand, and the issues become so badly polarized. We need the trail may be a good idea, I'm not qualified to comment, but we need to turn around with that place, do the upgrades, make the better facilities, but there's one caveat in the whole Quarry Lake Park. We need to be prepared to shut the doors. We got bears ranged in there, yes, it's gonna make everybody's day awful, you know, it's no fun, it's a beautiful, hot, sunny day. But if you got bears in the bush, I don't know, I'm long past the days of being able to outsprint the bear to the car. Maybe some of the other folks that could be there could, but we need to be prepared for that. I don't know, I'm an old movie buff. Anybody remember Jaws? You know, we gotta be prepared. Manage this right. It's a good resource that we have, made from an old mine that Jerry would remember. And we need to protect it, we need to manage it. But I'm not afraid to see an upgrades. Good upgrades are valuable.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Good. Mr. Kennedy, please.
Thank you very much. I am here to ask some questions, but I hate to correct the present mayor position, and it's open to public. In 1992, we established the Coeur Lake. I ran my campaign, and I have still the minutes when the Coeur Lake was taken from a group which they wanted to do a golf course there. So it's 1992. The Heritage Foundation has nothing to do with the base. That was a core board there, 150 to 250 feet around, plus the parking, plus the road. But that was the nucleus of that.
So John,
may I
question,
go for
please?
the question?
Thank you.
I love this council who is waiting to be a councillor, and they're using almost all of them, a very fashionable thing, which is in town, affordable housing. I see the audience here, 90% gray hair.
John,
we've been worried about the people and families leaving. When is the council going to worry about us, who got old here, who paid for 40 years, and be taxed out of this place with hidden taxes? The tax, why is it not?
John,
please. I asked Mr. Boroman,
yes.
Why we have to, Mr. Boroman.
Please, John.
The question.
Yeah.
Do you think the unaffordable, the unaffordable housing base is only the thing what we're talking about, or lack of staff housing, or the expense of the staff which you increased from 205 people from 158?
John, it's starting to sound like you're running for office. I know you're passionate, John.
Excuse me, Mr. Boroman started off with attacking the other mayor. I'm not attacking, I'm asking.
John, if you wanted to ask him a question, please do so, and then I'll spread it around to him.
When are we going to worry about the present residents? When are we going to stop increasing the staff and the studies from out-of-town people to tell us what's good for us?
Thank you, John. I'm going to turn to Mr. Foreman, and Mr. Russell, you can reply also. So, gentlemen, you ready? 2 minutes.
There was an awful lot of talking there, and it was hard to decipher exactly what the question was, but if I understand it, Mr. Kennedy is suggesting that this council doesn't care about older population. And that's clearly not the case. We've spent several years working with the province to create new seniors housing, for instance, 120 units of seniors housing in the new lodge. And everything that the council is doing to make the community better and to function better is for all residents. It's not only for the young residents, many of whom are here tonight. Staff. What was the question about staff?
Well, staff number increases, John, yeah.
So when you open a facility like Elevation Place, 70,000 square foot recreation facility, which is incredibly popular, you're going to have to hire new staff to make it work. When you bring in neighborhood recycling bin program with recycling bin in every neighborhood, you need to hire staff to make that work. When you add a new material recycling facility, you need staff to make that work. Everything the town does, which is delivering service for all residents, requires staffing, and it requires funding. And I don't hear anybody telling council which service to stop providing. When we do the survey of satisfaction amongst the residents, we get very high response, 94% people saying that they think the service delivery in the town of Canmore is good. Same number of people say that they think that they're getting good tax value for their taxes. So I don't understand where Mr. Kennedy's coming from.
10 seconds are done. Mr. Russell, would you care to respond?
With apologies to Mr. Kennedy, I didn't catch your third question, so I'm going to answer the first two. You're right. I've felt that we focus an awful lot on tourists, visitors, which is great. It facilitates the economy, but what about the local folks? I live in a community that's shrinking by the day. It's progress. There's nothing illegal, there's nothing immoral. It's a fact of life, but that community is shrinking and it's being forgotten. It was the affordable community then, and perhaps I've not done the right thing by remaining in it. We do need to focus on the locals' needs. It's time. It's time. We need to worry about parking, the people who need to go for groceries, the people who, we just got to focus on the locals. Staffing, we're growing services. We got a lot of service. This place is doing big things. I don't think Elevation Place is the only staff black hole that takes a lot of people, but we do need staff to run this. However, there's nothing that says we shouldn't be keeping an eye on what we're doing. We used to have an audit committee on council to do service areas. We got one service area audit, and then the committee fell by the wayside, allowing staff to do their own the staff to do their own audits. It doesn't really work that way. I can't honestly stand here and say that we may be overstaffed. There's a lot of perceptions that say that. Comparing previous income levels, I've heard the comparison that we're doing a lot more permit revenue 10 years ago, and we're doing it with the staff has gone up now where it's less. Staffing is always tough, it's always sensitive, and with proper management, we need to stay on top of it. Stay on top, sir. Keep everybody right, and make sure we're getting the maximum dollar value for our dollar.
Okay, thank you very much. At that room, Councillor McCallum would like to comment, and I would like one of the candidates, if they care to, put their hand up. So, John.
Thanks for this opportunity. So the work I've been doing as a councillor and the work that our council's been working on, it's not just been dealing with staff from the tourism industry. Take a look at this room. Take a look at the census. Take a look at our aging population. Who's going to manage your bank? Who is going to be the nurse? How are we going to house the staff at the lodge? How are we going to give people baths from home care? How are those people going to stay in our community? And that is what I'm focusing on in terms of when I'm looking at affordable housing. Instead of bringing this discussion to the fringe, when we're talking about minimum wage or low-income staff housing, let's bring it to the center. Our middle-class residents, our families cannot afford to live here. And we need to find a way to get them to stay here so that they can take care of the boomers that are aging. And I can see the future. I can see the future of what seniors accommodation and seniors housing looks like. And we need to get real about this. Like, it is coming at us like a train, and not just our community, but communities across the country are not prepared to deal with the baby boomers of the future.
10 seconds.
And those people don't want to all live in staff accommodation, and they don't all want to live in rental accommodation. They want to invest and live in our community. And that is why I am focused on affordable housing and affordability in our community.
Time.
Not just for the fringe.
Time. Good. There you go, Chad. Go, bud.
Was it John, your name? Sorry, yeah, thanks for the question, John. I think you brought up a great point, and basically, from what I understand, you're asking what will we do for the seniors, which is, yeah, an excellent question. And for me, I have another question. I'd like to know what you guys want, what you need. I'd like to know that about everyone in town. If it's something like lower taxes or more community programs is a big one for me. I know there are a few senior programs out there. If you're looking for more, let's try to get those. I've been going to Tai Chi actually, and there's a lot of seniors there. It's quite fun. So things like that, if that's what you're looking for, adding to those programs. There was one other thing I wanted to say.
Chad, I'm going to call time here. Okay, good. I'm going to go back to the microphones. I'm mindful of our time here. We're going to finish at 9 o'clock tonight, and I have to allow time for closing statements. So just so everybody can kind of set their watch in terms of where we're going. So back to the microphone, sir.
My name is Lawrence Hill. Most of the candidates for you, affordable housing is right up there with motherhood and apple pie. However, when it comes to making a decision about whether an affordable housing project is going to happen or not, there are a lot of contentious issues that one needs to deal with. The environment, sustainability, many of them are in established neighborhoods, so there's infill considerations. So my question to Jill, Wes, Chris, and Karen, if you had been on council this last term and you had to vote, and you had to vote on whether, and you couldn't go, without voting, when it came to the project at the old daycare center, some refer to it as lecture, how would you have voted and why?
Okay, thanks, Lawrence. Okay, so I'm going to move. Lawrence, you asked for Jill, Wes, Chris, Karen. Those were the four. Okay, so in that order, Jill?
Step into
2 minutes.
the fray. Step into the fray. Thank you for the question. I will tell you what I think about that. When it first came forward, as I said, sometimes my first lens is, why would you ever give up a green space? And the environmental impact on that would be my first lens I look through. However, given that the real tension in this town is to create a livable Canmore where people can stay and age in place, make a living, raise their kids, there's also some backstory I understand about that particular landscape, that it was a hardened landscape, and for close to 50 years it has had programs in it. I would have voted for it, and I would vote for it, and I'm in support of it. Urban density isn't easy, and that's why I think we have to have a ton of conversation about this, because these are very difficult decisions, and they impact the feel of our community. But we also don't want to build up even higher onto hillside where we're going to be pinching corridors even more. So I do think those are difficult decisions. I actually think it was quite amazing that the council was able to get there.
Thanks, Jill. Okay. Wes?
Good evening. Thanks, Lawrence, for the question. Okay, I was doing a little campaigning out in Larch Park, and I took some pictures, and then I sat down and talked to a few of the residents, and I think that there wasn't enough input from the council to understand these residents aren't happy. Okay, what was proposed is a little bit of green space. What's left there? It looks like a bomb and a bulldozer. And the residents that are there have to look at that for the next 6 months. A couple of them had referred to it as orphan park. There's no access in, there's no access out. So they've got this big bomb, bulldozed, demolished thing that they're gonna look at until next April. Why could that development not have been put off? As soon as the decision was made, the bulldozer went in and down went the trees. I think they could have done better. I think they could have taken that project and put it someplace else. They didn't consult the residents. I talked with Dr. Evans. He's not happy. Every morning he gets up, he looks outside. What does he see? A construction site, signs up that have distinctive homes all over them. And it's like, yeah, that's not the view he wanted. And when you build it 5 stories high, it's not going to be the view that anybody wants.
Person, but I don't know, now you're there. you don't know. And I wasn't there during the process, so I can't say for sure, but I can tell you, I can try to give you an answer of how I feel about that. And I feel that, well, I live up in Cougar Creek, and I've got 4 neighbors looking into my backyard, and I moved there knowing that. And I love my neighbors. I love knowing that they're there, and I feel great having them there. But if I did live in a neighborhood that maybe I grew up and that was my neighbor, or maybe I spent $1 million, just my life savings, to move to this certain particular area, and came down the turnpike like that and had to be developed, I could really understand in their situation. So I think I would try to find another location.
I understand from both, I've heard from both sides that there was consultation, and I've heard there wasn't consultation. I think you really have to consider that when you're moving into an old neighborhood. I know we do need perpetual affordable housing or affordable housing. Big consultation with residents would have been my big thing. I know that a lot of those residents there have put their heart and soul, like Lloyd Evans, into the arena there. Many of our kids have played and done everything in there. I was disappointed. I thought that maybe the daycare would expand and we'd have parks, picnic tables, and a little maybe a ball diamond. I'm not sure what would fit in there. My concern now, though, it's already been done, it's there is a bit of space still left there that's MR. Are we going to keep it that way? That's my concern now. And no, I would have also looked for an alternative space first before I went into an already established neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, Karen. In my opening remarks, I mentioned that I have questions that were submitted by 3 organizations in town, one of them being the library board. So I'm going to ask for 4 volunteers to speak to this question. Given the projected growth of Canmore over the next 10 years, what role do you see the library playing in the expanding community? Jill, saw your hand move first. Okay, I've got Jeff and Chad and Chris. So there's 4 right there. And I'm going to give you 1 minute, so quick. I'm going to try to get as much in as we can tonight.
I'm on
Go,
it.
Jill.
Okay. Libraries. They're a community hub. They're a gathering place, a learning place. They nurture a sense of belonging. They're a repository for our stories, our creativity, our history. They're democratic and non-commodified places. Yay, libraries, they're going to play a key role as we move forward. All great cities and towns have them. That's right.
Thank you, Jill. Good enough. Yeah.
My kids love the library. I don't get to go there as often as I'd like, but I do get to take my kids there. I get to pick out books, pick out some movies. We definitely need to keep the library going. We need to keep supporting the library. And the town funds it. We need to continue that support. It's great because it's part of the Marigold system and the track system, so we have a lot of resources, so you can get a lot of different things there. It is a hub. It is a great place for people to go, take their kids, just go hang out, have a quiet space to read. We need libraries.
Thank you very much. Next one up, Chad.
I agree with a lot of what Jeff said. I love the library. I read my first book officially out of school on purpose when I was about 19. I haven't started or haven't stopped since then. I used to go to the Banff Library all the time when I lived in Lake Louise, and libraries are, to me, very important in any community. So I'd love to see it keep going. I find that the staff are very friendly. I think I can go there for books that give me inspiration for life and a nice quiet place to study or work. So I hope that everything continues the same with the library.
Thank you very much. Next, Chris.
Our library is fantastic. It does so many great events. There's the science thing that just went on, the literary thing. They have these wonderful displays that are there. This library is nothing like its email address. bored at Canmore Library. It's great. It truly is. That's true. I can see this library stepping into the future with an online book club, getting the town connected with each other, community. If you're into history, all the history people can come together and then do a book, or if you're into fiction or non-fiction, I can really see the library pulling the community together and sharing the wonderful journey that a book can take you on.
Good, thank you very much. At this point, you were there? Yeah.
My name is Heather Pierce, and I've been here for about 13 years, and I have family that lives in the town as well, young kids growing up or grown up. First of all, one thing I would like to say is congratulations to the council in putting together such a great bus system. I think this is a positive note in this town. It's a total change of subject too.
Question, yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
and the question is regarding post-secondary education in the town. We have a problem with young workers staying in town and people in businesses keeping kids to stay here. What is anybody's thought on a post-secondary educational system in this town? I realize Bow Valley is here, but is there something you could do with SAIT? Regarding healthcare training, regarding construction, regarding tourism. You can have a satellite campus here. So that is my question, where kids could work part-time and go to school part-time. There you have your workers in the town. So that's my question. Is there any thought on
Heather,
that?
who would you like to direct it to start?
Let's go with Brian.
Okay, fine, here you go. And then I'll find 3 more.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because the other night I mentioned that the Global Water Futures has set up an office here in Canmore. It's a 7-year project of scientific research, and it's a postgraduate program though, so it's not available to high school or early university people. The issue with having post-secondary here is that the town of Canmore has done inventories of its own land, and we have very little land. So it's the type of thing that could happen in the future on private land owned by some of the major developments. But you would have to also think about the fact that institutions don't pay taxes and that you have to build a facility for them. So the money has to come from somewhere. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not available, because the Global Water Futures program brought money with them, and they are leasing space. The town gave them some tax relief, but other than that, they have brought a lot of money to that table. So an institution on those grounds would have to have some sort of business plan. The other issue is, if you're going to have young people in the community, you have to have housing for them. So there's another secondary housing component that makes it challenging. So if we can work with some of our large developers, and if we can work with other government agencies, it would have to be provincial, federal, and perhaps there's some potential there with some of the types of funding programs the provincial government is rolling out quite regularly to us, and we have a very good relationship with them. I could see us going into the future, but it would have to be an enormous partnership.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, Mr. Russell, and I think Joanna put her hand up, so good.
Thank you. I have the mixed blessing, some would call it a curse, some call it a blessing, that my child is in second year university this year at a small scale institution in Calgary called Ambrose University that used to be a college. That place, it's got very high standards in a number of the programs they run. It sits at a very small footprint. It has residence complex there. And I wish I could take the credit for this idea. The man running our sound equipment, John Frolick, was the first guy that ever pitched it to me. You have a college, you've got residences in the summer, you've got housing on there, you've got jobs created by that. In the summertime, you've got empty housing for all your staff coming in to visit. It could run 360. The biggest problem is going to be getting the traction with either the federal or the provincials. They run education. The feds could help, but we need help. We couldn't fund this ourselves.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Russell.
Great question.
Thank you.
And I love your glasses. So I think we need to realize that in our what we see as a sleepy little tourist town, that we're a world-class destination. And I know for a fact that there are people in our community that are working with the high school and working with state in Calgary to look at bringing some more culinary kind of education, so around hospitality in general. So those are natural synergies based on the tourism economy that we already have here in Canmore, and synergies that work in terms of cooperatives or co-op terms with the employers that are here in the valley. So I see it being very focused and very specific, much like the water study group, that's very focused and specific to a situation we have in our community. But I see that as being a really great idea, and I know that there are actually people working on it. Yay, through the high school as well, so that's great.
Okay, good. Last closing, Mr. Morgan, please.
Thank you, Heather, for that question, and it's a really good question, and it's a good direction to be moving the conversation. As Joanna was referencing, we have been working recently with a small group, a subset of the Chamber of Commerce. I've been meeting with them myself for many months around opening and operating a small incubator, if you will, a research-based facility. They've already opened an initial location, and the others on that committee are all connected with the universities within Alberta and in fact across the world, and also connected with Google DeepMind and such. And their vision, which I'm very supportive of, is to end up with a 50 or 60,000 square foot campus or incubator, if you will, specifically for the research industry. I've been talking with the owners of Three Sisters Lands recently about some possibilities for their future visioning on the resort center area structure plan, and I have suggested that it would be a good idea to consider the possibility of including within that plan some ability for exactly what I've just described. We've developed within the Bow Valley expertise in a number of areas, certainly Steep Creek mitigation, Steep Creek hazard and risk, wildlife issues, and we have so many people living in Canmore that are active in the knowledge-based sector all around the world. So this is something that we have to put a lot of energy and discussion into. I think it's possible. I think that's where we're going, a big part of our future economy.
Thanks, John. That's the end of that one. I do have another question I'm going to read into the record. This came to us from the Canmore and Area Healthcare Foundation. The executive director has given me a text to kind of preamble and set the context. The Canmore and Area Healthcare Foundation sees value in strong local partnerships to help support the Canmore General Hospital's growing needs. The Cycling Without Age program is a perfect example of a good partnership between the foundation, the town of Canmore, and the hospital, which is a cornerstone in our community. Its proximity has a huge economic value to the community, the athletic community, young families and seniors, and almost every day Canmore citizens will use the hospital at some point in their lives. In your view, how can we strengthen the relationship between the foundation and the town of Canmore to make our hospital the best it can be for its patients, residents, and staff, as well as lessen trips to Calgary related to hospital needs? What ideas might you bring regarding collaboration and community engagement and fundraising between the various entities? How can we work together to build a legacy for a healthy community? And what will you do as an elected member to promote healthcare development in Canmore and thus the work of the foundation? Any takers?
It's only 7 questions.
Wine.
Esme, yes.
Wine. I've spent a lot of time in that hospital. My youngest son was born there. I was treated there recently. My husband had a heart attack, or was treated after a heart attack. She's had 3 heart attacks, so you spent a lot of time in that hospital. I love that. I love that. It is amazing. The staff is amazing. They work really hard. I would support anything that we could do to support the foundation. They have a tremendous director in Sulafa, and I think, in fact, on this brief, on this file, that we need to work more with the school board, the foundation, the healthcare foundation, and other agencies where we can. And I think we have improved relations with a number of those because it's very holistic. Nothing happens in a silo, and when we work together, things are improved.
Thank you very much. Anyone else care to comment? Mr. Borman?
Where did the questioner go? It was a good question, and to my knowledge, we haven't in the past had very much in the way of conversation or engagement with the hospital foundation towards this end. The town would be very open to working with the foundation to improve the connection between us and them. Cycling Without Age was a good project to reference. But one way that we have been engaged in very similar activities is through the community support services with the town of Canmore, which is a very active group, and they're working with the community on a lot of health-related issues, and with the province as well on those issues. Personally, I was involved in helping the Healthcare Foundation just last week when I put myself out there on the catwalk and modeled a lot of garish clothes, strutting up and down the catwalk, and I know they raised a lot of money by putting us in those awkward positions, and will support the acquisition of some well-needed equipment. But really all that's needed for the foundation is to reach out to council and to administration, and we can sit down and talk about ways in which we can coordinate our activities and do a better job of that.
Thank you, John. I'm going to give last comment to Rob on this one. We're running out of time. I'm mindful now.
Well, I'm a friend of the foundation, and I'm happy to support them. My son was born there 14 years ago, and it was a great experience. And I'm really thrilled that we have such a great foundation and hospital. The new cancer treatment center is a great addition, and it saves some people that need treatment going to the Tom Baker, so that's important. And they do some very good work. I'll continue to participate in the Healthcare Foundation's golf tournament. It's an important fundraiser, and they do a real good job with that. So.
Thank you very much, Rob. Mindful of the time here, I have one more question to read. It's from the school board, so I'm going to put that out there. I'm going to ask the respondents to tighten up their responses, so 60 seconds each. So here it is. It's not as long as the other one. Proposed changes to the Municipal Government Act will mandate a joint use planning agreement between municipalities and school authorities. Do you agree that school divisions should have a voice at the table when new subdivisions and developments are being planned? How would you decide which of the 3 school divisions currently operating in Canmore would be awarded the subsequent municipal reserve land to build a new school if one were necessary? So, volunteers? Mr. Russell, first hand, this way. Second?
You know, that's a good one. Frankly, we've got 3 first-class school divisions here. They're all going to come, they've all got needs, they're all doing expansions, and everybody wants their thing. We need to collaborate, and I guess it would come down to you've got to present your demand, present your need, present a full and complete explanation of why you need that school, why you want that school, and at that point, you go back to the council process. You've got 3 places, you weigh it up, and 7 voices will get together and make the decision.
Thank you, sir. This way.
I think I forgot to mention that I was a 3-term school board trustee. This is I totally support co-planning. It only makes sense. It's a numbers game, and it would require huge community consultation. As I recall, when we built the high school, it's very controversial. When we had to move the kids from Lizzie Rummel back down to the high school, all the kids had been in the same school for years. My oldest was in that situation. They thrived. When the kindergartners went back, it was like, no, don't put my little 5-year-old in with those hulking great teenagers, you know.
I mean, we need, it's gonna be.
15 seconds, Esme.
We need to do it sooner rather than later, we need to do it on an ongoing basis.
Okay, Jill, last comment.
Alrighty. What just struck me is, I hope this actually is a thing we get to work on, that we need more schools.
You mean growth?
That we're, well, but that there's
For schools,
families,
yeah,
and
for
that there's
families.
kids here, I really do hope that. Along with Esme, I think collaboration with the school board is absolute. And we would have to have a lot of conversation to understand where dollars go, where the best needs are met.
Okay, thank you. Over to this microphone. Kay, you're going to be the last of the night because I think I'm...
No, come on, they've been standing all night.
You want to stay later?
Yes.
Okay then, I'm cool, I'm good. I'm making minimum wage, like $13.60 an hour. Go ahead.
My name is Cindy Gansley. I, up until recently, was a Larch Park resident. I was highly engaged in the Larch Park development process, to the point of sitting on the advisory committee to select one of the developers. I really wanted this development to be respectful to the Larch area residents. One of the things that I think made it respectful was the fact that, and as everyone says, we're keeping that green space. We're replacing the hockey rink. And that's awesome, and I think everyone's gonna win with that. However, as of right now, the hockey rink was put onto the 2017 budget as a capital project. According to a resolution to carry forward capital projects, that has to be started in 2017. Part of starting that capital project is the removal of the existing project. Right now, we have contractors working around the existing rink. It's not being taken down. It seems odd. So to me, it looks like it was all a sham, that the hockey rink is not coming back because as of January 1st, it's off the capital budget. You guys have to bring it back. Any one of you that are elected, you have to bring it back. You have to get it onto a new budget. So there is absolutely no...
Please.
I want to know, as Karen asked, are we keeping it MR land? Or is it more housing? And I think that's fair to the people who have bought houses and who are buying houses there.
Well, I'm not arguing that. I'm just
right
trying
now-
to keep us on target.
right
Okay,
now,
who do you
we
want to
don't have
answer?
trust.
Who do you want to take a first kick at the cat?
Joanna.
Joanna.
John. Ed. Rob. Why? Any one of you. You made the decision.
Pick three.
Cindy, I'd be happy to answer that question for you. So I'm absolutely committed to ensuring that that rink is built. The plan for that, the development was to occur earlier in the year, and as you know that there's been a few legal challenges which has pushed that development back in terms of time back into the year. So the process that it happens like this, it's called a whip. At the end of the year, budget items come forward and it is reported as to any work that has been done on that project, and then it is the control of council to be able to whip that project forward into the following year. It is my 100% intention to whip that project into the following year should I be re-elected. I am committed to putting that rink on that property. That MR is to stay MR. That is meant to be enjoyed by that neighborhood. And that was the commitment that we made to you as the residents and the commitment that I made personally to many people in this community. And I am still committed to voting in favor of that and ensuring that that occurs. And I thank you for asking the question.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Rob, next up.
Just to keep on time, I don't have a lot to add for that, but I'll advocate the very same. That was the agreement that we made. The rink is going back. I'm a hockey player. I'll make sure that happens. And the MR was set aside. That was a key.
Okay, Vine was also asked of you.
When we discussed the project, we determined what portion of that MR would be used for housing, and we divided the land based on that. And we had to sell. We had to actually dispose of MR. So, as you know, we have not disposed of MR on both parcels of that property. So I'm absolutely certain that it will be envisioned as you imagine it.
Okay, good. One last comment. Gonna go, Ed, you move first.
You know what? I was involved in the building of that first surface. A lot of guys. Lloyd Evans, the Kinsman Club, just, it all got put together. That's got so much deep-rooted history. It's, if I'm elected, after this election, you know I'll be there, and if I'm not elected, I'm gonna be there anyway. The rink isn't gonna go away.
Okay, Mr. Borman?
And Cindy did ask specifically if I'd answer that, and Joanna and other councillors have been very specific, but the project is funded, the project is approved, it couldn't be started in time for this hockey season, but it will be started. Every member of council made that commitment, and we will follow through with that. It's going to be, the surface will be improved, the boards will be replaced, and there'll be pit toilets added. It'll be a much more functional facility.
Okay, good. I'm going to move on to the next case. Go ahead, please.
My name is Kay Anderson, and I'm a resident of Three Sisters. And I wanted to direct my question to all the new people who are coming forward.
Okay.
As I hope you all know, we've had a sinkhole. We had it for 7 years running in Three Sisters on Deergis Gate. And we sunk literally $600,000 into it, which I call the Band-Aid fix, because it's really not fixed, it's a protective seal. Okay? So my question is when, because it's just a matter of when, Three Sisters comes back seeking a new ASP to build on the unfinished golf course. Okay, would you support building on those highly undermined lands and also negatively impacting the wildlife corridor? It's a pretty simple yes or no.
Okay, you want this to go to the candidates who are new to the...
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to look down here and I'm going to... Okay, Mark, go ahead, jump in.
Easy answer, no.
No, okay.
Also an easy answer, absolutely not.
You're gonna get 3 no's. You're gonna get another no.
Okay, good.
Another no, just because of undermining.
Easy peasy. And I think it's more undermined, actually, that whole neighborhood is more undermined than we might like to believe. I'm very concerned about the original reports. And I live in that neighborhood, and I was talking to someone who worked there about how big there is undermined close to where I live at Mountain Haven. So I really, really, really hope we're not going to see a disaster there one day, because we didn't put our gas lines in properly for undermined terrain. So anyway, thanks for the question.
Chris, Chad?
I'll keep it short and say no, and I believe the person sitting to your left might know more details.
Poor Jerry, I knew you were going to get drawn in there. Yeah, keep going. Yeah. Okay, Karen?
Definitely no. After meeting with Jerry, going on Jerry's tour, and you see his map, it's very scary. I would say no.
Okay,
Definitely
Jeff, Jill?
I would say no, and I also have questions about my own neighborhood.
Is that everyone? Has everybody waded in on that one, on the candidate one? Okay. Now I'm getting confused. Who is at the mic first? Sir, go ahead, please.
My name is Jim Casad, and Mr. Moderator, you mentioned something about minimum wage. Before my question, I'd just like to note that the other half of housing prices too high is wages too low. And as long as we have, our tourism industry is our driving industry, but as long as they continue to argue against raising minimum wage, council's opportunity to provide affordable housing is going to be very much constrained.
Okay, question, sir?
My question is to the two mayoral candidates as future leaders, one of them of the town of Canmore and in their role as current members of council. Bylaw 201-710 appear to prohibit fruit tree attractants in Canmore, attractants that draw bears into our neighborhoods, threatening both our own safety and the conservation of wildlife in the community. I was rather surprised this week to discover that enforcement of this bylaw only occurs after there's evidence that a bear is actually eating fruit on a tree in someone's yard. In other words, we only enforce the law when it's too late. We only enforce the law when bears are already on the way to becoming food conditioned and to either being shot in the valley or exiled and shot elsewhere. So my question is this to Mr. Russell and Mr. Borrowman. I understand that it takes some time to convince people to change their behavior, but what is your timeline for moving from a relatively toothless encouragement of people to remove fruit to a policy enforcement in Canmore where we will see more widespread compliance and less fruit attractants in our valley.
Thank you, Jim. John first and then Ed.
Jim, that's a very good question and quite a reasonable question. I'm on the same page as you. I agree that we should be taking more initiative on enforcement. We have limited resources right now, but those can be staffed up or other means can be tried. That's one of the things that I hope to see coming out of the roundtable conversations that we've started with provincial agencies and will be including locally well-respected wildlife experts in the Bow Valley. But the town has to put those sorts of enforcement issues on the front of the burner. So you'll get no argument from me on that.
Thank you, John.
Ed?
Next year. How long can we go? I've spent a lot of time in my life, right? I've written a lot of tickets, worked in a couple of different enforcement agencies. And while I appreciate that there's the school of thought that says, you know, let's re-educate, let's train, let's do this. There isn't much of an excuse in Canmore for not knowing that bears come and eat your fruit. And, you know, it's time. We've got staff with skills. There will have to be some jigging because we haven't got a lot of staff. But when we collaborate with our people, perhaps consider, as we talked about last night at I've brought up at council, attempting to adjust the appointments of our officers that they can enforce different pieces of the Wildlife Act. We need to we just got to do something. It's not acceptable. Taking bears out for this it's our fault.
Thank you both.
Good. Thanks, Jim.
I'm not leaving it after work for next year.
Thanks, Jim. Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Timon Salzgeber. I was born and raised in Canmore, and I'd like to pose this question to all aspiring candidates. I'm, like many people my age, a huge fan of Elevation Place. It's big, a lot of people are into it, and a lot of people are climbing. In future large town developments, how do you plan on not having such embarrassing oversights like the pool being 10 inches too shallow to dive in, and the climbing wall being a foot too short to climb up the competitions?
Ouch. Anyone? Okay. Don't be shy now. James, gonna go first? Okay.
I think the only thing you can really do to prevent that stuff is take your time. We have to develop a little bit more patience, right? We could have taken a little bit more time and gotten that right. So there you go.
Thank you very much, Wes.
Again, it comes back down to input. If the user groups like yourself were consulted before that thing was built, then you could have decided, hey, we gotta look at this and look at this again. Once it's built, it's pretty hard to fix, isn't it?
Sure.
I was just going to say basically what Wes said there, that lack of communication. This should be coming from the community or that's involved most. If there's something going on in DP Town, like sidewalks or whatever it is, it's that community that knows best. It should start there. When that building was being built, there should have been a lot of input gathered before it was built, and I don't think any of those problems would have happened.
Okay, Mark, go ahead, please.
I believe what you asked is in future, what we would do, in future considerations, we'd have to hire professionals that know what they're doing and consult with everybody, groups like yourself. I know they did that, but it didn't work out.
Okay, Joanna, please.
So I've not actually heard any of those items that you brought up. What I have heard though is that the reason why there isn't a diving tank in the pool is because of the water table and where it is in the valley, so we could not dig down deep enough to do the diving tank. And as far as the international, I honestly, I spend a lot of time in Elevation Place, and that's the first I've ever heard. I've heard lots of other crazy rumors, but that specific thing I've not honestly heard. I do know that it was my understanding from the international competition, it had not to do with the height, but it had to do with viewing. You need to have viewing for 1,000 people for it to be an international competition facility.
And that was what we knew that we could not provide viewing for 1,000 people in that facility. But I'm going to look into both of those items because that is honestly the first I've heard, and I sat on the steering committee for Elevation Place, so if that's truth, I'm a little embarrassed.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. We're going to close on this one, I think. Kim?
Just a quick comment around, you know, building a building that, being more invested in how it looks versus being practical. So I'm all about quality and practicality, and I think there's a lot of aesthetics over practicality that went into that building.
Just we have to do our due diligence. We have to make sure things are being done right. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to move back to the microphones and try to.
Brian, just one.
John. Okay, go ahead, John.
I wasn't on council when that design was being developed and approved, but I know that there was quite a bit of engagement with the user groups at the time, the swim clubs, the aquasize groups, and a number of other user groups. So there was engagement, and the design came through that engagement. In the same way that the climbing gym really evolved through engagement with the climbing community. In future facilities, I would look to see the same sorts of engagement.
Okay, good. So, microphone, yes, over there, and you point to him and he points to you, so you're up.
I'm a small business owner in town. I operate outside of the downtown core, more specifically in Canmore Way. My business relies heavily on walk by and drive-by traffic from the Valley Trail Canmore Way. So I'd like to direct this to, if there's any business owners in front here. Should you be elected, one of the first slated tasks is to address signage bylaws. As a member of council, would you be prepared to relax or rezone signage regulations to help small businesses like myself thrive outside of the downtown core district?
Who would you like to start off? Anybody?
I'll go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Easy answer, yes. I'm a small business owner as well. And I've spoke with other businesses, and there is a lot of difficulty sometimes putting up signs. Finding, I guess, condo boards have to approve things. There's a lot of approval needed, but I think that you should have a sign. There's a can sign. They love that business too, so it helps everyone, and then it brings people to your business essentially. So.
Okay, thank you. Jill, you wanted to comment?
Great question, and I think if you were talking about those sandwich boards, or and if it's not on a really congested area, obviously there's flow issues. I think it's a great idea.
Anyone else? Karen? Sorry, Ed, I'll get you next. Karen first.
I also work on Canmore Way. I'm a little hidden behind another building, but as I think we could revisit it. I see already a lot of non-enforcement on signs that are already there. So I think we should revisit it and see what people want. And as long as it's the same as Jill, as long as it's not interfering with traffic or congested areas, we're open to what you want.
Thanks, Karen. Ed, I'll move to you.
We are lucky in Canmore. We have two really first-rate sign companies who both do fantastic work. We'd be happy to work with you. They collaborate with the town. The planning department and sign people work well together. And this is going to be dynamic. This is going to be dynamic. I think signage bylaws have to be there. We're here. We're supposed to be helping you make a business grow. We've zoned it as a legal business place, but if we're handicapping you by not giving you appropriate signs, we're dropping the ball.
Thank you, Ed. Mr. Borman.
Thanks, Carol. And you and I have had many discussions on this, and as I've suggested, and now you're doing, this is something to bring to all council candidates for future discussion. So this will be part of the discussion moving forward with the proposed amendments to the land use bylaw, which council has just agreed unanimously to leave for the next council to actually discuss. It's important to understand where the current regulations came from. In the 90s, downtown was a minefield of A-frame signs. businesses from blocks away from Main Street were putting sandwich board signs on the sidewalk on Main Street. And it got to the point where people couldn't physically walk along the sidewalk on Main Street. So the new the signage guidelines were written to prohibit those types of signs. At that time, there really wasn't much in the way of commercial development outside of the downtown core. There is now, and I see lots of room for discussion of changing or having different regulations around this kind of signage in different commercial districts.
Okay, thank you very much. Going, gone. Okay, next question, sir.
Hello, my name is Andrew Salzgeber, born and raised in Canmore as well. My question is regarding town development. I've heard that there's a lot of talk from candidates that there's parking that's an issue, but as for traffic congestions, a lot of candidates like to push biking and pedestrians, but I see that as a great environmental environmental push, but it's not practical to every single year. We're going to get busier and busier with cars coming every year, tourists coming, driving in, and I feel that we need, for traffic congestions, like people coming out of Elevation Place and such and such. Sorry.
And your question is, sir?
My question is there any plan from any of the candidates for development for the roundabouts so there's less traffic congestions is kind of what I'm regarding. Anyone that wants to answer that?
Jill, you move first. Wes, I see you. Okay, Jill, go ahead.
That's a big one. and I don't think any one thing will answer it. So taking a few tips from the integrated transportation plan, I picked up a nice term, multimodal. So we want to incentivize other modes. We cycling, complete streets, walkability, and we also still have congestion, and we have our fabulous weekends and summer when we've got our trailers coming in. So there's also been quite a bit of talk about parkades. They're really expensive, and if we put them right downtown on prime real estate, then we're still driving right downtown to get to it. So I don't have a clean answer on that, but it feels like it creates perhaps a bit of a dead zone where we could be doing something different on that landscape. There's also been some suggestions about behind the courthouse. That might be a better spot for parking further out for trailers and getting free little transport into downtown. I think we're always going to need some parking downtown. We got to get groceries, you got to go to the pharmacy. So I think it has to be multi-layered.
Okay, thanks, Jill. Wes, I'm going to give you a closing comment on that.
Okay, I talked about parking and parkades. The biggest thing is, yes, we're going to be using the prime downtown land. Why don't we look at putting people on collector lots and use a model like Lee's and Banff to put them outside, bring them into town with a little bus, utilizing public transit. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go really quickly here. I've been getting kind of the. Got your throat? What's that? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do, John. So I'm going to take these two microphone questions, and that's it. Going to get a couple of responses, and that's it. So you are up first, and then you're second. So go.
Diane Wheeler.
Closer to the microphone, please.
My name is Diane Wheeler, and my question is for Ed Russell and John Borman and any of the candidates for council that would be interested in answering. I wondered what your position is on the proposed casino in Gondola for Canmore.
Okay, John, go. And Ed.
Thank you, Diane. That question was at one of the previous forums, and
I didn't realize it.
pardon me?
I did not. I was not
Yeah,
present.
and I spoke to that specifically or directly, and my own personal perspective is I don't see how a casino could fit within our community. The gondola, I'm ambivalent about. Both of those require significant provincial approvals before they come to our town for a decision, and I've suggested to the owner of those lands that he shouldn't be bringing those suggestions to our community for discussion until he has certainty from the province, which frankly I think is perhaps unlikely. Councillors should never take a position in public on a specific question that may come for a vote. We have to come to the vote with an open mind, with the ability to consider all perspectives. So I would never say definitively one way or the other, but honestly, I just don't see how a casino particularly would fit within our community.
Thank you, John. Ed?
I don't want to say what he said, but frankly, John answered that question well. The fact is, it's floating. It's an idea floating around. It hasn't come to council, so it's an idea floating around. When the time comes, it'll get whatever consideration is needed.
I'm going to close it here. I'm going to go back to the microphone for my final question of the evening before closing statements. So get ready, everybody. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay.
A little bit closer to the mic.
So my name is Liz Baker, and I've been in the Valley for 35 plus years. My question to the two mayors running for council or running for mayor. Sorry. If in the last 4 years we see our taxes increase by 20%, it's my understanding that next year our taxes will go up again another 4.5%. And if you read the financial strategy, it looks like it's going to go up another 2% every year on top of the 4.5% that's currently rolling out. So the last 4 years it's been 20%. It looks like it's going to go up maybe 6% next year and that 6% every year after for the next 4 years. My question is, with all the services that we're getting, which is great, when you go and ask your surveys about whether or not we want the services, can you provide to the taxpayers a question on whether or not we're willing to, or whether we want that service based on the cost to us? Are you willing to put a cost to that question in a survey? Do we want that service if it's going to cost us that much more in our taxes?
Thank you, Liz. To the mayoralty candidates, Mr. Farmer and Mr. Russell.
Liz, I think what you're suggesting is quite reasonable. And this past year, the town did initiate for the first time an online place, a page where people could go and basically weigh in on that very question. Various services were detailed, and then the residents could use a sliding bar to rate the importance of that particular service and to understand the impact on tax requirements to provide that service. I think we could increase that approach to have the residents understand what increasing or decreasing service levels does to the tax requirements. So yes, I think that's a very good suggestion.
Okay, thank you, John. Ed?
Thank you. To me, that one's real simple. Open, clear communication. Tell it like it is. Ask if that's what you want. Get the answer right. And if it does work, great. And if it doesn't, then we just have to say no.
Thank you very much for everybody. I'm going to move now to closing statements. So you've all got about 30 seconds to try to get us all out of here. So if those of you could hang on just a few minutes so our candidates could just give you their final words. I'm going to start with Joanna, right down at the bottom. You are on.
Have I said enough?
No, you have 30 seconds more.
Okay, so thank you all for coming. I think I've been had an opportunity to make very clear as the work that I've been doing over the last 4 years, and I intend to continue forward with that work over the next 4 if I'm elected. And quite frankly, if I'm not elected, those are things I'm actually passionate about personally, so you'll see me poking around regardless. I love this town. My family and I are invested in this community. We plan to stay for the long term. And I hope that on October 16th, you consider me as one of your choices. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everybody for sticking through. I would just like to leave with that if I am elected, I hope that at the end of the 4 years you can look back and say, she worked hard, she worked well, and we're better for having her on council.
Thank you. Jeff?
thank you really quickly. Thank you all for coming out. This has been entertaining, it's been fun, and actually I've learned a lot. So I hope you'll consider voting for me on the 16th. I would love to represent you. I would love to try and make Canmore the place I think it can be. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. James?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm thinking about you, Canmore. That's why I'm running. And I hope you'll think about me on election day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you again all for coming. I would like to say that if elected, I would like to communicate and have conversation with each and every one of you and respect your views and hear what you're saying and have your input. And I promise to be fiscally responsible. I'd like to have a look at the budget, just like when you're working with your business, run it like a business, and be community driven so that we're all inclusive, everyone working in this livable, lovable community. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Ed?
Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for the exchange to the fellow candidates. I've learned a lot tonight. I guess just one thing I'm looking at, if I'm elected as mayor, I see the role of the job is simply to facilitate a full and complete discussion on all issues. Make sure that as a team we come to the right conclusion to make everything better. We can make this, we can fix this up. There's a better way, and I hope you'll give me the chance to lead us to it.
Thank you, Ed. Brian?
Well, thank you everyone for coming tonight. It's been a fairly long evening, so I'll keep it short. Tomorrow, advance polls open, so if you've made up your mind from this evening's voting, you can start voting tomorrow. I would like to bring my experience and my commitment and my responsibility and respectfulness. I really do feel very strongly about this community, and I love this community. I've lived here for a long time, and I hope that my record for the last 5 years on council resonates with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Since I never had a chance earlier, I'd like to talk about the library and answer the question that I never had an opportunity to. It's a great library, settlement, newcomers to town. I use the library as an information hub. Affordability, the library is a very affordable source of information, entertainment, in the form of books, videos, DVDs, ebooks, and the town's affordable service program, an initiative to provide barrier-free services. The whole community helps support the new and existing residents. Reaching out to the community, their outreach services, a program that brings a library to seniors, and Books on the Bus, a free lending program for commuters on their own transit. Our library is a special place, and I thank you for hosting the forum tonight on October 16th, and please consider Rob Seeley for Canmore Council.
Thanks, Rob. Mark?
I didn't get to say enough tonight, I don't believe. I promise to listen to every person in every group, not just the loudest, not just the richest. If I don't know the answer, I will find out and I'll do my own research. If you want to talk to me, please vote for me.
Sean?
Do I get his extra time?
Yeah, you do.
So much of the concern that I hear in the community and the questions that I hear both at forums and every day on the street really speak to the worry, the concern that we've had in this community since the 90s, since earlier than that, when the mines closed. We've always wanted to avoid becoming that exclusive mountain resort that towns like Canmore have become and in fact are. We have to work hard to avoid that, and so much of the work the council's been doing is to build a community that responds directly to our vision and our needs, and the community that is not an exclusive mountain resort is a community where families can live, play, work, and imagine having their kids staying for generations for the same reason. I have proven experience in working with people with very different perspectives and with different goals and ideals to find the balance that we need here. And I have proven success in leading town council to reach those ideals. Please support me at the advance polls or on October the 16th.
Thank you, John.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. I know we've ran over time and you're probably a little bit bored and you're probably tired of sitting there. So I'm going to just make it short and sweet. I think it's time for a change. When I started, my opening comment was, I'm asking for you guys to score. You can score us, you can make our lives easier by voting. I'm asking to be part of the team. I think I bring a little bit more to the table, a fresh perspective, and I'd like to get a voice on this council because I have a vision for Canmore too that includes people, the lower income, the middle income, and the seniors and people with disabilities. Let's work hard to make our Canmore a better place. So I'm going to ask you for your vote on October 16th. Thank you.
Next question.
I will, if re-elected, I will seek, as I always have, to preserve what's best in the community. When I go to Food and Friends, for example, and touch base with those folks there, when I go to volunteer at Folk Fest, all of the different activities in which I'm privileged to participate, I know that I live in this community, that it's my home. And I know that you all love it and care about it too. Please elect me on either tomorrow or later. And I just have to say, I'm sorry that we're late because I'm due to leave for Edmonton because my son gets married on Friday, so.
I'm going to beat a dead horse, affordability. If I am on council, I promise to be courageous and innovative when it comes to affordable housing. I believe there are different levers and buttons that we can push, we can try to push and pull to promote affordability that we haven't explored. And I also want to say I am very concerned that our market within a market model, PAH model, it's problematic. My research suggests it's very problematic and extremely risky for us as taxpayers.
For the last 2 weeks, I've been out talking to people, and I just want everyone to know that it's been fascinating, and I've learned so much about the town that I live in that I wouldn't have known if I didn't go out and do that, and I'm already a better person for it, and I would like to keep on talking until the election, and if I am elected after the election, I want you to know that I will be ears, all ears, and I will listen. Thank you.
I'm also going to take this opportunity to answer a question quickly. The question was in regards to post-secondary education, schools here in town. I really wanted to answer this. So Canmore is full of passionate and talented people, and I know that change will happen no matter what, and our builders do want to build. So let's have our builders build things that we actually want. And that, to me, I think a post-secondary school would be great.
I guess the luxury of closing this out. Again, just thank you for coming. I hope you vote for me. I was born and raised here, deep roots here. I'm not going anywhere. If you want to talk, my cell number is on all of my stuff. 403-678-7734. I'm not changing that because it's a 678 number. So, throughout the long haul, if I get elected, you can call me. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Ladies and gentlemen, and candidates and incumbents, any errors and omissions are mine only. I tried to let you ask the questions that were on your mind, and I thank you for your forbearance, both the candidates and the community. Like many of you, I live here, I have loved here, I have had children born here, I have suffered the diaspora of losing all my children to the city, and I have loved ones across the highway waiting for me to join them. So, with that, I have a vested interest in a 6x4 talking about land. I leave us with this to think of. Those of you that are in my generation will remember the French President Georges Pompidou. He reminded us that a statesman is one who puts themselves at the service of their community. A politician merely sees the community as something to advance their own desires. Let us elect 7 statesmen and women on the 16th. Good night.